The Orioles should extend Trevor Rogers. He's proven himself. And Kyle Bradish is lights out in his latest rehab start. We will see Kyle Bradish with the Birds very shortly, probably within the next week or so. Hello, everybody. I'm Jon Leiberman. This is Orioles Digest. Yes, it's August 15th. Yes, the Birds are out of it, but in more ways than one. But it is now time to start looking toward 2026 and beyond. So we have a lot to discuss here. I think the Birds should extend Trevor Rogers even before some of the other young stars that the Orioles have. I'm going to tell you why I think that in just a moment. Plus, Kyle Bradish lighting it up in his latest rehab start, looking amazing. We'll talk about that. Tyler Wells, should he be a starter or a bullpen arm when he comes back in a couple weeks for the Birds? We'll get into that and all of the things. There's a lot to talk about, despite the Birds, being out of it in the middle of August. So again, like, subscribe, do all the things, because there's a lot that's going to happen over the next several months for this Orioles club, mainly to get ready for the 2026 campaign and what are already huge expectations for this team. Mike Elias's job is probably on the line. Who's going to manage this ball club moving forward? I don't think you can judge Tony Mansolino yet, although my hunch is that the Birds will probably bring in somebody with big league experience. It's just my hunch. I'm a Tony Mansolino fan. I think he could do the job and do the job well. But again, my hunch is that, the Orioles hopefully get healthy, and they will probably bring in a manager with some big league experience. Buck Showalter, wink, wink. See what you think. But let's start with Kyle Bradish, because this could be exciting in a lot of different ways. So Kyle Bradish had a great start last night in the minors. Let's call up his, at least we can see him. There he is. And I thought we had some tape of him, and I'm going to check real quick and see if we do. I think we do have some tape of him. Not there, but it's coming up. Here it is. Some good tape of Kyle with a strikeout. He actually struck out 3 in the first, which was great last night. So last night, 2 hits, 2 walks, 5 scoreless innings, and he struck out 9. This is a great sight for sore eyes for the Birds, because there's no doubt about it. The Birds need Kyle Bradish. They need a completely healthy Kyle Bradish. He will get one more rehab start as it stands, because if you look at what he's done, the one last night was his 3rd with Norfolk. So 3rd at AAA, 5th overall in the minors. And he got to 74 pitches. So 74 pitches, he strikes out 9. The Birds are talking about one more rehab, and then clearing him to be up in the bigs and make his season debut by the end of August. You would think that once Bradish is called up, probably Brandon Young, who's been struggling, goes back to the minors, or whoever it is. But we will see Kyle Bradish, and we will see him sooner rather than later, and I think that is a good thing for the Birds for sure to see. Now, Tyler Wells also rehabbing, also looking pretty good down in his rehab starts. The question is, do you slot him in as a starter for the rest of the year, or do you put him in the bullpen? I say put him in the bullpen because A, we need people in the bullpen. B, it's a little less pressure, I believe, on Tyler Wells coming out of the bullpen. C, do you really want 2 guys fresh off of Tommy John, both in the rotation, both putting, potentially heavy innings on their arms. So I'm going to say put Tyler Wells in the bullpen, Kyle Bradish as a starter. It doesn't mean that Wells isn't going to be part of the rotation next year. It just means I believe that right now these games are more about, taking inventory of what the Birds have and not necessarily about anything more than that. So, speaking of more than that, it leads me to Trevor Rogers. Trevor Rogers has been the ace of the Orioles staff, particularly, over the last 2.5 months or so. And he has been outstanding. Take a look at his numbers if you're not with me. 11 games, 69 and a third innings pitched. He's only given up 2 homers. He strikes out almost 1 an inning. The ERA is 1.43, just absolutely outstanding. This is a 27-year-old. He returned from the minors back in mid-June and has just, again, been absolutely amazing. So here's what we need to discuss at this point. So you look first at your 2026 top returning starters. So as of right now, you have Cade Povich, you have Dean Kramer, and then you throw Trevor Rogers in the mix. The asterisks are the question marks. Is Bradish going to be totally healthy to go? We know he'll be back in the bigs. How's he going to be? Grayson, a big question mark. He's having surgery. He had surgery and now coming back. And Tyler Wells. So there's no doubt that the Birds, and the reason why I say top returning starters here is because I think we can assume that Zach Eflin and Tomoyuki Sagano are going to leave. I think that the Birds will lose them in free agency. I think Sagano is upping his value a little bit, going 10-5, ERA around 4, a serviceable middle of the rotation guy. Zach Eflin hurt, but I think, teams would see his value too. I just don't see the Orioles signing those guys. So there's been talk about Trevor Rogers under team control through 2026, which is actually, so he'll be a free agent after next season. Rogers will. That's different than Gunnar, Colton Cowser, Adley, Westy, these guys. These guys are under club control a little bit longer. And you're going to say, John, you're crazy, but there's been speculation and talk about if the Birds should actually extend Trevor Rogers before those guys. And I say yes. Extend Trevor Rogers on a 3-year deal, because I don't know that the Birds are going to be able to acquire anybody. I don't want to say anybody better, but certainly they're not going to acquire anybody with better numbers this year. But I think it would make sense to extend Trevor. Then you have him as a fixture in your rotation. And think about it. If you do then get a healthy Kyle Bradish, and you do get a healthy Grayson Rodriguez, and you do, have Dean Kramer, and you do have Cade Povich, and then you have Tyler Wells, whatever you want to do with him. Now all of a sudden you're talking about a formidable rotation, and the Birds could still go out and should still go out and get another top of the rotation guy, but it might not have to be, I just don't know if you're going to do that much better than Trevor Rogers. So again, I want to hear what you have to say in the chat. Should we extend Trevor before somebody like Gunnar, etc.? Tell me what you think. I'm Jon Leiberman. This is Orioles Digest.